Well, hello and welcome back to the 1904 Club, the Hull City podcast, of course, from the Hull Daily Mail, coming at you in between the game on Wednesday against Watford and, of course, the trip to Frank Lampard's Coventry City on Saturday in the early kickoff at 12:30. Thank you very much for that one. I'm joined this morning by Burnsy, just me and Burnsy this morning, back to normal on Monday with a full gang. Burnsy, how the devil are you?
I'm all right, Baz. I hope you're well as well. Yeah, it's down to me and you. The other two are having a lie and getting the beauty sleep, and frankly, the pair of them need it, don't they?
They really do.
So yeah, looking forward to the chat. Few messages coming into the 1904 Club, so we'll get to those, and we'll give our early impressions of the start of Ruben Selles' reign, which I thought was quite impressive. I thought they were better midweek. They deserve to win, in my opinion, and I suspect most people's opinion. But the old Achilles heel of not being able to keep a clean sheet. But I thought there was progress. There were reasons for some cautious optimism. I think, but I do sort of come in my own mind to January is going to be the crucial thing. The transfer window is going to be the crucial thing.
Yeah, I guess, look, when you go 1-0 up at home with 82 minutes on the clock and you've only got a few minutes to play out, it's a game you really have to be winning. But I guess that soft underbelly that we've seen all season, just the one clean sheet prior to the other night, kind of came back to haunt them. And I actually felt, although I probably felt that Watford were the better team on the ball in the first half, City were far better, far the better team in the second. It was one-way traffic. Watford never really. There was a couple of early efforts in the second half, one that was bent just over Eva Panda's angle of post and crossbar. But I felt fairly comfortable in the second half. But they just, I guess, what do you think? I'd be interested to see what you think. But I guess when you're not used to winning football matches and you get in that position, 1-0 ahead with so little left on the clock, and Watford then decide to have a go, I guess that soft underbelly, as I mentioned, comes to the fore, doesn't it? Because you're just not you don't know how to win football matches, and ultimately they don't know how to do it.
Yeah, I think somebody needed to bring down the fella who set it up on the right and take a yellow card, really, to prevent the equaliser. But yeah, but that was just sort of old pros play, really, and maybe they're too young and naive. And we'll maybe touch on that. I don't know whether we'll do it in this edition or we'll do it on Monday's edition with Prutz and Fletch. But listening to Jared Dublin earlier in the week in the press conference, and he was sort of saying that the players were going to target young, etc., etc. And I will make a case, maybe on Monday's show. I'm just teeing it up for people about, well, don't forget the oldies, because I think players look after themselves better, and I think that side needs a bit of nous, needs a bit of experience. But we'll maybe come to that on Monday. Having said that, Pedro, who worked his what's it's off the other night, to me, he looks as though his legs are gone. He was running everywhere, but it's just he's probably too experienced and has gone down the other side of the hill. I don't know what people think, but I'm not sort of picking on him necessarily. I'm maybe defeating my own argument, but I'd like at some point to talk about the value of experience because I think they need it. And I think an experienced player would have probably taken the legs of the fella, taken a booking and take the 3 points in the win bonus. Thank you very much.
It's funny you say that. Two things there. And I'll start with Pedro because I agree with you. His legs have gone. And we saw that in the second half when he did brilliantly, by the way, to stay on side. And Casey Palmer fed him through. I got it wrong, actually. I thought that he was flagged offside. I couldn't. It never even occurred to me that because I'm doing. It's not a sob story, but I'm doing so many things during the game. And you sort of glance up, you're glancing down, you glance up, and it never occurred to me for a split second that the linesman who was on our side, the West Ham side, that would have not seen the diversion from Daniel Backman to tip the shot wide. So I just automatically thought, oh, he's flagged for offside. So I've obviously seen the run, watched the shot, seen the save, glanced back down to type, and obviously after the referee had blown, so I just it must be offside. But yeah. we'll come on to the refereeing situation in a minute. But yeah, I actually thought in general play that was probably Pedro's best game in terms of his involvement. There's been games that he's played, that he started, where he's had 4 or 5 touches in a whole game. I think he may have only had 4 or 5 touches in the West Brom game and scored a fantastic header from left to right, of course. But I actually thought his link-up play and his involvement was the most we've seen of him. But I would agree with you about the legs. But yeah, coming on to the point about making the tackle, it's funny because I said this to Ruben after the game, that when you looked at the stats, there was a marked shift. They had a lot less possession than we've seen for a long time, actually, under Liam Rossini and then Tim Walter, and even the 2 character games, the 2 caretaker games under Dawes. They had a lot of possession. They didn't have as much on Wednesday night. And also, they were a lot more aggressive in the fouls. When you looked at the fouls, they were far more aggressive. And it was something that I put to Ruben about being more in your face of the opposition, less respectful of the opposition. We've seen so many times this season where they've just stood off them and they've allowed the opposition to play around them without getting too close. But I thought there was a marked difference, and that's something he said he wants from his team, to be more aggressive in the press. And it's funny that the one time they needed to be aggressive in the game, they weren't, and they ended up conceding the goal from it.
Yeah, they were more entertaining, weren't they? They played at a quicker pace. They were more entertaining. The crowd got behind them. It felt like a decent atmosphere, which was good. I think I used in a tweet the word rousing at one point of the game. So yeah, that was good, and they were vertical. I heard his post-match interview. He used the word vertical a lot. I think I know what it means, Baz. But what's playing football vertically?
Play it up the pitch, basically. And
Yes.
I agree. I thought they played more football in better areas. I sort of have used the term over the course of the season, unnecessary faffing in and around the goalkeeper. Between Panda, Alfie Jones, and Charlie Hughes. There was a lot less. Panda was a relative spectator for much of the game. Very little to do in terms of glove work, and he didn't have that much to do feet work either. So, they just, for me, they played. When I think back to the second half, and they played, instead of playing the game, and we saw this under Liam Rossini, and we saw it under Walter. Excuse me. That most of their play was in their own half. They would play it around their own half, and then try and in their own way would try and go forward when they could. Well, under Ruben, we've only had one game, but in that one game we've seen already a willingness to play in the opposition's half, because football, you can't do a huge amount of damage in your own half unless you've got players that have got the ability to then play in their own half and zip passes through the opposition and break the lines and then create chances and goals from it. Well, they haven't got the players to do that really at this stage this season. So they need to be, if they're going to score goals or create chances and score goals, they've got to play more in the opposition half where they can directly hurt them. And I felt second half, because of the aggressiveness of the press, the way they closed Watford down, they won. There was a kind of what almost summed up the game and Ryan Longman's performance actually was he did fantastically well to win the ball off the defender. I can't remember if it was either inside the penalty area or just outside, but he won the ball off the defender on the left-hand side. Turned and then went to bend the shot and then completely missed it, hit the air. I felt like ego, and that kind of as frustrating as that was, because it was a good chance missed. It kind of summed up City's second half performance, that they were winning the ball high continuously off Watford, and they were creating chances from it. Yes, they couldn't take the chance, but they were creating something, and I think that was a really, really positive approach.
Yeah, I think there was only one moment of penalty box stupidity from Pandor. That was in the first half, and the Watford keeper had a go at doing the same thing somewhere in the game. This in from Martin Waits to the 1904 Club on Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it. Nobody calls it X. Martin says, straight in with the big question. Do you think the club will avoid relegation this season? Also, has Jared Dublin taken over Tan's negotiations with the council? not a priority at the moment, but interesting to know. I've no idea on the second part of that. That's maybe one for a future program. And all I'd say on the relegation, I genuinely don't know. They're in trouble, and in my mind, Martin, it's getting a couple of strikers in January, maybe the only thing that gets them out, because I'm not sure. And I listened to Ruben Selles say, you know, we have the quality, and he wasn't over concerned about missing chances. And I'm thinking back to Longman's chance that he should have taken early in the game. I'm not sure they have the quality. I think they need a couple of strikers to make sure they avoid relegation. But I was encouraged. I'm not being down on them or anything like that. I'm just trying to be realistic. Baz, where are you at?
Yeah, I think back to that Longman chance in the first half. It was almost a carbon copy of the one against Blackburn. On that occasion, Abu Kamara cutting off the left-hand side, I think it was, played it into Longman. No, sorry, no. I think it was Ryan Giles cut it back for Longman. In the same position, Longman sliced it to Abu Kamara at the back post, who then shot and probably should have scored, albeit a very, very good block. It was a carbon copy. This time, the ball came to him, and there was nobody at the back post to divert. Ryan's got to hit the target. He has, Ryan gets into some really good positions with his tenacity and his work rate. But there was a reason last season, and no disrespect to Ryan, because I think he's a great. I really, really like him. He's a great lad. But they got rid of Ryan Longman and brought in Jaden Philogene. And over the course of the summer, they've got rid of Jaden Philogene, and by hook or by crook, because of injuries, they've ended up going back to Ryan Longman. And Ryan has got to step up, and he's got to start putting those away. Hopefully, with time and confidence, he'll start to hit the target. You think of those, the one against Blackburn, the one against Watford on Wednesday night, the one in the second half where he's as I say, he's done fantastically well to win the ball and create the moment for himself, but then didn't have the finish. We know he's got that in his locker. We saw it at Bournemouth a couple of years ago. We saw it against Everton famously in the FA Cup. We saw it for Millwall against Leicester City last year. He got Millwall's goal of the season last year for coming in off the flank and sticking it in the top corner. Now he's got to do. The City need him to do that more regularly.
But he's a winger, not a striker, isn't he? Essentially, so his goal ratio, his goals to chances is going to be 1 in 6 if I'm being generous, maybe 1 in 10 if I'm being realistic. So if you don't see him as a striker, though he was in a central position, then while he should score more goals because he gets in good positions, given his track record and his taking of chances, I don't think he will score goals. But in this moment in the team, he has a value to the team because his work rate. And I do think he's a confidence player. I think there's probably a few of them need a cuddle. I'm not offering to do it because nobody needs that. But it's they strike me as a team, some of them, that need a bit of a cuddle. You mentioned Kamara there. I'd like to talk about Kamara in a bit if we've got time. I know this is only a short edition, but I just wanted to give him a mention. Wallum says, this is from Will Day, I think. Giles much improved. People expecting too much of someone who's played barely a bit part all season. Any idea who the outs and ins are in January? Personally, wouldn't want to rock the boat too much. Let the players gel. They need to do some wheeling and dealing. What are you hearing, Baz? Too early?
Yeah, just before we come to that, a quick tally. Ryan Longman, in his last 77 championship games, 6 goals and 5 assists. So that is
1 in 10, yeah?
Yeah, so that's something that he needs to turn around. And City need him to turn around because the pressure, and it's the same with Abu Kamara, and I hear what you say about confidence and needing a cuddle, and I think you're right. I think those two players are players that need an arm around the shoulder. They need belief, and some players are like that. And if Ruben can do that, he needs to get the best out of them because there is no Miller, there is no Balumi until next season. At what point next season we see either of those two, we don't know. It might be for the start, it might not be for the start, depending on how they both recover respectively. So it is going to be down to Ryan Longman and Abu Kamara to produce if not the goals, assists. But you think of the goals they've, we talked about this throughout the summer, the amount of goals that they scored. 68 goals in the league last year. They lost 63 of them over the summer. They still haven't been replaced. They tried with Liam Miller and Mohamed Baloumi, but Lady Luck, whoever she is, wasn't shining. We've lost them. I still look at that team and I think I don't see where the goals are coming from. I don't see players. Regan Slater gets in good positions, doesn't score enough goals. Xavier Simons scored a couple, but gets in some great positions before his injury. Doesn't score. Kamara and Longman don't score. What have we got? João Pedro's got a couple. Bedia's got a couple, 3. Mason Burstow's got 1. There's the reason City are, not only because of what happens defensively, although I think there's so much pressure on them defensively to keep clean sheets because they just can't score. So, if they're only scoring, well, they're not even averaging 1 a game now. So if they're only scoring 0.9 goals a game and they concede 1, they're going to lose or they're simply not going to win. So that coming onto flowing onto the January chat, that is where they're looking at. They want another winger, although it was interesting to see Will Jarvis back on the bench. And I do think that under Ruben, he will be given an opportunity because Ruben, we know, is a big fan of academy players and young players. And I think he'll think that in Will Jarvis, there's a player there. What I would say about Will Jarvis is
product.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, end product, head down, does well, runs into traffic, no end product. But then you could argue at times this season, we've seen that with Longman and Kamara, but successive managers with Will Jarvis have deemed him not ready at championship level. Liam Rossini talked well about him, farmed him off to Shelbourne. Tim Walter, brought him back through necessity because obviously at the point he was brought back, they hadn't got anybody. And Longman had just done his shoulder at Reading. So it was needs must. But obviously Tim Walter was highly critical of Will Jarvis's attitude and application and said that he's got the ability to be brilliant, but he doesn't produce it regularly. So it's up to Will Jarvis now to prove that and prove that the former manager wrong and grasp that on. You talk about giving players cuddles, and I'm a firm believer that, we talked about it before with John Eustace when he was linked to the job. Well, he was interested in the job, and Sammy Smodic, and how Yondell Thomas at Blackburn had managed his way. Well, Eustace went into Blackburn, basically told Smodic he was the best player in the league, and got the results from him. Now, that's the sort of man management that Ruben Selles is capable of, and we need to see that here if he's going to get the best out of the likes of Kamara, Longman, and Jarvis. I've not answered your question.
No. We'll come back to it. I want to talk about Kamara because I had a conversation in the ground with somebody who said to me, "Don't rate Kamara," and then I was coming out to get the park and ride bus after the game. I'm living the rock and roll lifestyle here, Baz, and I was listening to a couple of fellas.
With your pass, you get it free. With your pass, you get it free, so you would use it.
You cheeky sod. So I was listening to a couple of fellas coming out after the game, and they were having a pop at Kamara, and I'm thinking, I think you're wrong, lads. I didn't dive in, but I think there's something. I think there's something there. You look. He set up the chance for Longman. He set up Bedia's goal, and I think there's something there. There's a nice player in there. He works hard. You think back. I think it was the West Brom game. Was it him? I'm not sure it was the West Brom game, but it was definitely him, where he came in off his wing, tore in, could see the danger, and made an intervention in his own 6-yard box to prevent a certain goal. And I like that. I like his attitude. And he's maybe not going to scoot past people or anything like that, but he plays a nice ball inside. I think there's something there. And CJ says Abu Kamara had his best game against Watford. And I would agree with that. So I would say to people that are maybe having a little pop at him, give the lad a chance. There's a player in there. And I know you said before he was signed, he's a good player worth signing. And I can see it. I can see why you say it. There's definitely something to work with. CJ also says, everyone knows we need strikers and can't fail again in this window. Do you expect us to go for experience or younger Premier League strikers, Baz? What's your reading of the situation and who they might go for?
Yeah, I'll do my best to actually answer your question this time, rather than dodge it like a politician. Although you are used to speaking to those people. On Kamara, yeah, look, he's a confidence player. I think look, the way the move happened and the criticism he got from Norwich, I think affected him. His debut against Sheffield United, let's be honest, didn't go well because he was torn off at half time. So that would have impacted his confidence. He's playing in the team that are bereft of it, don't create any chances, of which he's in there to create chances, yes. But, he's a 21-year-old kid that hasn't played. He's played very few senior football matches. He's played even less at championship level. So you've got to give him time. There's an expectation on him because of Miller and Bellumi being out, and obviously the standards of last year with the likes of Tufan and Jaden Philogene and Liam Delap. City fans, last year had it good in terms of the quality. Carvalho's another one that they had. So the players coming in this season have got an awful lot to live up to, and at the minute they're not at that level for a start. City have got nobody in their squad that is at the level of Jaden Philogene, of Ozan Tufan technically, of Fabio Carvalho, of Liam Delap, and Tyler Morton I throw in there as well, and Jacob Greaves. So they've lost 4 or 5 top players, Tufan aside, all have gone into the Premier League. So we have to remember that, and I think Kamara is slightly a victim of just the season so far and the former manager's tactics. I was speaking to somebody a few weeks ago very close to Abu Kamara, and he was saying that Abu was being asked to play almost as a left wing back, which is really interesting because I was talking to Liam Miller when he first signed, and he wasn't overly happy at Preston last year because Ryan Lowe was asking him to play as a left wing back as opposed to a left winger. So he was being asked to play more defensive, and that's not Liam Miller's game. Liam Miller is an attacking winger. It blows my mind that these players, you bring in attacking players, but you're asking them to play defensive. And according to somebody really close to Abu, he was saying that Tim Walter was asking him to play more defensively minded than attacking, which I was a bit surprised by, given that the former manager's apparent willingness to want to play forward. So hopefully now Kamara is being asked to play on his more natural side, on the right as opposed to the left, which is a difference. And also go and play in the opponent's half. Don't play in your own half because you can't hurt teams there. Go and play in the top third of the pitch. And CJ and everybody else, I thought that says about Kamara on Wednesday, I thought that was his best performance. Yes, there's a lot of room for improvement, but he's 21. He's learning his trade. He's in a team that are struggling at the bottom of the table. And I think if he's given the time and the space, I think there's a real quality player in there. He did it at the top of League One. Let's be fair, the top of League One to where City are right now, that's not a huge gap in terms of level. So, he's got it in his locker. There is no doubt about it. And I think, again, in terms of Ruben coming in, I think he's, I did a piece a few days ago on the players I've looked at this season that I think will benefit from the new manager's approach. Regan Slater is one of them. Ryan Giles is another. Charlie Hughes. But Kamara is in that pack. In terms of January, look, the difficulty they're going to have, and I've said this before, they're bottom of the table. They might be, come when the window actually opens on New Year's Day, hopefully they've got a couple of results by then and they're out of the bottom 3 and they're 15th or 16th and they're looking a bit further up. But the big concern for me, Burnsy, is the time. I said this the other night as well. The type of player they're going to be able to sign. They're going to be fishing in a very different pond to the one of last year. It was far easier for Hull City to attract Fabio Carvalho, not least because of what they were paying, but they were competing for a place in the Premier League at the top of the Championship. They're now, at the minute, they're competing for a place in the Championship, not the Premier League. And they've got to be careful that they don't attract the wrong player for the wrong reasons, that a player doesn't come, somebody that's 35, that's done it before, doesn't come for a big payday, or they get somebody from the Premier League that they pay a whack for, but he's only coming because it's good money. He's not coming because he wants to help Hull City and he wants to play for Hull City and actually potentially sees Hull City as his destination club, next season. But I do think with the way they'll approach it, they may well take a punt on a Ben Doak from Liverpool. Obviously, not him because he's excelling brilliantly at Middlesbrough. But that type of profile, Jared Dublin was at pains to talk about McAtee, and players like that. So he has those links with Man City, with Liverpool, with the clubs in the Premier League. Obviously, City have got that as well themselves from signing Carvalho and Morton and Delap from Man City. Even Salaradine a couple of years ago, who it didn't work. I mean, he was a great signing in principle. It just didn't work because of injury. So they've got a link with Arsenal. I suspect they will go. It's a risky one, admittedly, if you're bringing in a young player in January and expecting him to come in and score 10 goals to keep you in the league or get you out of trouble. But I think that is where they'll go.
Okay. Well, maybe on Monday's edition of the 1904 Club, we might expand that debate with Fletch and Prutz, because I'm quite interested in the, as I said earlier, in terms of what Jared Dublin was saying about, we want to target young players and things like that. I still think there's a place for experience, and if you get the right person, it'll work for you. But we'll see. Just on the subject of where's this? Let me get to some of the messages. Andrew Evans, the Irish Tiger, says definitely more positive on Wednesday night. It will take time to gain back the confidence. It also shows, however, what we already know, missing the ability to hit the net, and we still need to stop defensive relapses. The equaliser was totally avoidable. Ben Collier. Ben, thank you for your message to the 1904 Club. Look very positive against an informed Watford side. Can tell Slater will work his socks off for the new manager. Him and Palmer will be key for us this season. Yeah, I'm expecting goals to come from Palmer personally, Baz, because he's got in it. Traditionally, I think he's done that. Ben goes on to say, Pedro looked good for me as well. A proven goal scorer, centre-back and another wide player on loan, and we'll be fine. It's the proven goal scorer. In terms of what you're saying, they'll probably go for somebody in a Premier League squad or somebody in the Premier League under-21s who's maybe a proven goal scorer, but not at first team level. He might have got, fair goals at 18s and 21s and things like that, but hasn't played first team football. We'll have to see whether, if that's the case, they can translate it into the hurly-burly of the Championship. And Nigel says, it sounds like the manager would like to trim the squad in January. Who do we expect to leave? Also, which positions in January do we need to target? Nigel reckons City need a striker, a winger, a left-back, and maybe a defensive midfielder. Is he going to trim the squad? He needs to trim the squad, doesn't he? He needs to do some wheeling and dealing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally understand all those comments. Hello to Andrew in Ireland, by the way. I know Andrew. I saw him over there when I went over for Shelbourne this time last year. Yeah, look, they want a number 6. That we've reported that for the last few weeks. Yeah. So that's an area that they'll look at. Although that said, I do think that Stephen Alzate is a player. Thought I was impressed largely with what I saw from him on Wednesday night.
Steady away for me.
Say again?
Steady away for me, really. Yeah. He's, okay-ish.
I think they miss Tyler Morton. I think they miss Tyler Morton's energy, his drive, his ability to score a goal. So that's an area they'll look at. I don't think left back is necessarily a concern. I think I think we'll start to see the best of Ryan Giles, and they've got a £4 million player there. They need to get the best out of him. I agree with the comments about him this season. I think he hasn't looked great when we've seen him, but he's been in and out of the team. Obviously, there was all the stuff about Middlesbrough in the summer. We know about that. But I do think he's a player under Ruben that we will start to see more from. They've got Matty Jacob in reserve, who I still think benefits from a loan, but they might well keep him. But in terms of squad size, yeah, it's we've said before, it's way too big, it's bloated, and that in terms that causes a variety of problems. Not least, it's very difficult to keep them all happy because a lot of them are training knowing they're not going to be even in the squad on a match day, and also, for a club that don't make a huge amount of money and are very reliant on their owner, that's a huge financial noose around the neck. So that is something that they're going to have to do to change. I asked that question to Jared and to Ruben as well. And they want to get the squad down. As we've said again before, they have to, because they can't sign players. They are at the EFL max limit for squad number. The only way they can sign players in January is by getting players out. They can obviously, and we've said this numerous times, they have got a quick way around it of deregistering Bellumi, Miller, and Zambrano, because those three aren't going to play again this season. So that's a way of getting those three out to get three in. You're assuming they'll be for loans. But look, the other thing as well, everybody wants a striker. The reason teams are at the bottom of the league in any league is because they can't score goals. It's not, again, you have to be you don't have to be a football scientist. Teams that are in the bottom 4, 5, 6 places of the league concede too many, don't score enough. So pretty much every team in the Championship this January will be looking to score goals. Will be looking to sign somebody to score goals, because that is what gets you promotion and avoids relegation. So, City have got they're going to have to be creative. They're going to have to find somebody, a gem from the lower leagues, like an Alfie May. Birmingham paid tuppence for Alfie May from Charlton, certainly compared to Jay Stansfield. They missed out on Cannon. They missed out on Tommy Conway. So they're going to have to find somebody from somewhere. It might be from abroad. Jared Dublin's got a great knowledge of abroad football. They may well have to go abroad, and like somebody like Noah Ohio, somebody that comes in from abroad, but that you can trust. My concern about bringing in a player from a Premier League academy that hasn't played much Premier League football, are they going to be able to come into and start scoring goals more over than Mason Burstow or even Sellers Fleming, who's banging them in for the 21s at City? So that's always a risk, bringing in an academy striker from the Premier League that may have scored 4 or 5 goals in the Premier League 2. Great, but can they come and do it in the Championship? And you've already got. So I think there's a player in Burstow. I think you give him the number 9 shirt and get him playing through the middle. Well, he needs a couple of games before you write him off. Yeah.
I agree with that. Mentioning the under 21s, if we've got time for this, I just wanted, because he's disappeared off the radar, Harry Vaughan, who's one of the most exciting players I've seen play for City in recent years. Has he got a chance under this manager who likes young players and things like that? The wingers are a problem. Is Harry got a chance of breaking back through? I'd like to see it. I was really excited by him. Doesn't have to be a long answer, Baz. Is he on somebody's radar, or is it? Might he go out in January?
If I was putting a bet on, I'd say he'll go out in January. But that was pre-Ruben. I think a lot. There's a fair few of those young players that might be given a chance. Tinsdale's one, Sincere Hall's another, Sellers Fleming and Harry Vaughan as well. And there's 1 or 2 others. Yeah, Ruben will have them up. He'll have them up at Cottingham for training, and he will take a look at them. The only without getting into too much detail, the only problem they've got at the minute is the size of squad, and there's a lot of players. There's a lot of players in their way. So, but they'll certainly be given the chance. That's something that we'll get from Ruben over time. But he'll need to get his squad. He needs to trim his squad, doesn't he? That much is obvious. And I know over the next couple of weeks into Christmas and beyond, will be the January window will be something that dominates our discussion, and understandably so, because what they do in January will dictate, for me, a large part of what this season ends up being. He's got stuff to work with. He's got a squad there. It's not of the quality of last season. We know that. But a bit of organisation, a bit of confidence, and playing to the player's strength. There's more than enough to get out of the mess that they're in. Burns, and it was really interesting, actually, and hopefully we'll get him on fairly soon. George Ellick on the Not the Top 20. We've had him on before. Yeah. And he did a short piece the other day talking about the underlying stats of City and how they looked at, this was just before the game against Watford, and they looked at the 6 defeats, and bar Sheffield Wednesday one, and obviously they're rubbish, but we know that was the end of Tim. For the most part, the others, they were actually in games. He referenced the Oxford game, and he was right because he was there. He's an Oxford fan. He was right. City battered them for 45 minutes, didn't score, conceded the goal. He was basically the number of that was, he was saying the underlying stats of City, and I think Sky Sports showed it on Wednesday night as well, are actually quite positive in terms of their possession, what they actually do in game. both boxes is the problem. And if Ruben can get that sorted, then I think they'll be okay. Just quickly, because I know we are short of time, I've got to get to the training ground. Coventry away tomorrow, then.
Well, they've got a chance. You'd be encouraged by what you saw the other night. So hopefully they'll take it and make a game of it. Coventry lost in midweek. One thing I'd like to say in terms of increasing the goal threat, I want to see some work on some set pieces. Set pieces are back in fashion again in football. They should never have gone out of fashion. But I want to see some work on set pieces, getting the centre halves in. Hughes looks as though he can bullet a header. So let's see some work from the training ground come into the set pieces and maybe get some goals.
On that subject, actually, there was a couple of poor ones from Gilo and Casey Palmer, which is part of the course. But generally, I thought there were some really good balls put in the penalty box on Wednesday night. And as you said, they weren't attacked. They weren't, somebody like Hughes somebody like Hughes should be scoring goals. He's the way he attacks the ball defensively. If he did that in the penalty area, we're seeing it with. And the last time I referenced Arsenal in the summer, I got absolutely slaughtered. So I'll be careful with this one. But you look at the way Arsenal have developed set pieces and the threat they are from set pieces again. City have got the players in their team. They've got big players, whether it's Pedro or Beddy or whoever that is. Longman's not small. Charlie Hughes is an absolute bullet in the air. Alfie Jones is good in the air as well. These players should be scoring more goals. So, when you've got Casey Palmer and Abdush when he's on the pitch, I mean, we've had that discussion, and I think that's another one for another time on Abdush. But when you've got Casey Palmer
moving out in January,
they've got to attack. But Coventry 3 wins in 9, I think it is. 1 win in 6. They've won just once under Frank Lampard, albeit a really good win away at Millwall. Beaten at West Brom in the week. Came back from, I think his first game they were losing away at Cardiff. They came back to get a point. They're obviously struggling. We know that because they sacked Mark Robbins. Lampard's now in. Their home form. Their home form is 3 wins in 9, I think. So they're not great at home, a bit like City. So it's a very winnable game. Interestingly, the referee, a certain Bobby Madley he was the 4th official the other night, and he was the referee that angered so many people in the defeat to Sunderland when he perhaps may have got in Malam's eye line, although I still think Malam was shambolic in that.
Much more. Well, Bobby Madley needs to work on his set piece positioning as well. So maybe invite him down to the training ground.
Yeah, maybe he might be there this afternoon watching, so he knows what to expect from their set pieces, so he doesn't get criticised.
I know you've got to go to training. Quick couple of messages. Craig Bell says Kamara looked a different player on Wednesday night, full of energy and enthusiasm. And JP Hullinasia says, great to see the team playing through the middle of the pitch again. Can now see the real Palmer. We'll leave it on that because you've got to dash off to the training ground. And we're back with the full crew on Monday, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully Casey Palmer scores the winner at Coventry, and the fans that are making the journey down there have a good trip, an early trip, but a good one nonetheless. Yes, thank you for watching. It is a bit of a shorter one today, as I say. Burns's got a radio show to get going, and I've got to get to training. We will be back normally on Monday with myself, Burnsy, and the other 2 Scrooges. So thank you for watching, Burnsy. Thank you for giving up 40 minutes.
Hi, everybody. Enjoy the game. Thanks for all your messages, and we'll see what happens.
Keep them coming. Yeah, we do read them all, even if we don't get time to read them out. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And up the Tigers.